Hi, everyone. This is Avi Green from the Scholar Strategy Network. Thank you so much for joining us on today's webinar. I'm going to give you a quick introduction to what we're going to talk about and then hand it off to Dr. Syed Camacho. So let me first say something about the Scholar Strategy Network. I think most of the people on this call are already members, but some aren't. And as a technical note, let me just say that as we go today, you can type in your questions, and if there's time, Sail and her team will answer as many of them as they can, most likely at the end. So now about the Scholar Strategy Network. The Scholar Strategy Network, or SSN, is a nationwide nonpartisan membership organization for university researchers. Our mission is to ensure that research is used to improve policy and strengthen democracy. There are approximately 1,200 members today at about 200 colleges and universities across the United States, and most of them are organized into approximately 30 regional chapters. You can read a lot more about the Scholar Strategy Network, and if you're not a member yet, you can find out about joining at scholars.org. SSN as a whole doesn't take positions on policy issues, which might be impossible to do with 1,200 member scholars, each with their own unique perspectives. Instead, we empower member researchers to share their own findings and their own perspectives on policy. And I am excited today that SSN postdoctoral researcher Syed Camacho and some of her team that she's been working with will be able to present some of their own research and findings and personal perspectives. I want to recognize also that research itself can be a collaborative process. And in this case, talking about immigration and the experiences of undocumented people, that they themselves produce knowledge through their lived experiences. So this webinar was developed for scholars, policymakers, and advocates, and it should help you to better understand how to work with undocumented people in order to inform policy in a manner that amplifies perspectives that have often been pushed to the sides of public debates. Syed co-developed this training with undocumented youth who are themselves also immigrant rights activists, and I just want to say I feel really honored to have them here with us as well. So with that, let me pass this over to Syed Camacho, who will lay out the agenda and let our other speakers introduce themselves.
Thank you, Avi. In this training, we're going to review 4 topics: general information about the undocumented population and current policy debates, challenges that undocumented people experience within and outside of the academy, allyship best practices, and what you can do at a local, state, and federal level to support undocumented people. So I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Syed Camacho. I am a former undocumented person and the Scholar Strategy Network postdoctoral fellow at Vanderbilt University in the Peabody School of Education. I am currently working with Dr. Roberto Gonzalez on the National Undocumented Research Project, and my research are at the intersections of immigration, labor, and campus climate. Last year, I had the privilege of working with this incredible team to develop the first Undocu-Ally training in Tennessee for Vanderbilt faculty, staff, and students.
Hi, so my name is Katherine Diaz Garcia, and I am an undocumented sociology and anthropology undergraduate student at Center College. My dream is to become a professor at a premier research institution and continue to work with my community while improving immigrant policy. I have worked on numerous campaigns with the Tennessee Immigrant Refugee Rights Coalition, or TIRC, and the Tennessee Jóvenes Unidos por un Presente, or JUMP. I also co-funded the Refugee Immigrants Speaking Up for Equality organization at Center College.
Hello, everyone. I am Dulce Castro. I am a first-generation student attending Cumberland University, and I am majoring in history with a legal studies emphasis. I aspire to become an immigration attorney and defend the rights of my immigrant community in the legal courts. I am a current member at the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition, Futuro, and the YMCA Latino Achievers.
Lovely day to everybody. My name is Carlos Reyes. And I am a youth organizer and leader in Tennessee Immigrant Refugee Rights Coalition, and also with United We Dream. I have been pushed out of my college education because in-state tuition does not exist for me.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Alejandro Lozano, an undocumented immigrant from Culiacan, Sinaloa, Mexico, hometown to Knoxville, Tennessee. I am a community organizer. I have served on the board of TURC, the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition. I have also been an organizer at ACIJ, the Alabama Coalition for Immigrant Justice, and I co-founded the Comité Popular de Knoxville. I play a key role in the Tuition Equality Now campaign here in Tennessee, and I've played a key role in the Education Not Deportation for myself, Alejandro Vstar. And my dream is to become a lawyer and create a nonprofit with the vision of ending the current prison system.
The diverse undocumented population in the United States. We are now going to start by talking about the diversity of the undocumented population. Immigration has a long-standing history in the United States, and due to our limited amount of time, we're not going to address everything related to the topic. We will be covering what is pertinent to this training, and will provide additional information and resources that you will be able to access at the end of the webinar. Who is undocumented? The word undocumented simply refers to lacking document, and this word is not always completely accurate when referring to undocumented communities. People oftentimes hold IDs or documents from their home countries or country of origin. So with that said, an undocumented individual in the US is someone lacking government-issued identification from the US or the country they currently reside in and call home. For example, someone from the Philippines who has arrived to the United States with a visa and is now residing in the US with an expired visa is an undocumented individual. Of course, this is not the common narrative that is portrayed. That brings us to the question, who is undocumented? Contrary to the popularized narrative, anyone can be undocumented, from any country and in any country. A little over half of the undocumented community in the United States is Mexican, followed by populations from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. Undocumented immigrants are not all from Mexico, and they are not all of Latinx descent. The Pew Research Center reports that the number of undocumented immigrants from Mexico has been decreasing, while there has been a sharp rise in undocumented immigrants from Asian countries in Central America. There are approximately 11 million undocumented people living in the United States. Undocumented immigrants are a diverse population. The fastest growing groups of undocumented people are from China, India, Korea, and the Philippines, and together they make up 1 out of every 6 undocumented people.
Why are people undocumented? People are undocumented for many reasons. The requirements for a green card are very specific, and the process itself is very expensive. So you can imagine the financial toll it would take on a family of 5. Questions like, why don't you get in line? Or why don't you just become legal? Are not grounded in reality. Becoming legal is not a possibility and sometimes not a viable option. To clarify, there is no physical line that I can stand in to obtain my green card or citizenship. And if I were to receive my green card, I can still get deported because being a permanent resident is not a permanent status. In addition, we have to acknowledge the exclusionary and racist nature of the US immigration policy. For example, until 1952, being white was a prerequisite for naturalization, and we still see the racial implications of this ideology in present day. We're going to play a 1-minute clip that summarizes these challenges for the majority of us.
I get asked questions like, why don't you just make yourself legal? And I think it's really important that we actually go through an application process to become a citizen so that you understand where the problem lies, right? So here is a worksheet from the website of the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, right? It asks questions like, number one, I am at least 18 years old. Yes. Number two, I am a permanent resident of the United States and I have been issued a permanent resident card. No, so I can't even make it past line 2. To get a green card, there's many ways, and one of them is the family way. But since I am not a spouse of a U.S. citizen or an unmarried child of a U.S. citizen, and I am not a parent of a U.S. citizen, I don't fit. So that's the really long answer as to why don't I just make myself legal. If you think America's tax code is complicated, you should see America's immigration code. Who gets to come to America depends on your family members already and skills, and definitely your wealth. Take my mother. There are 2 ways she could possibly come here. Mama could become a legal resident. My grandmother applied for her, but the waiting list for family members coming from countries like Mexico and the Philippines is decades long. So Mama waits. Mama could visit me. She applied for a tourist visa. But since she doesn't have money or even a job, she couldn't prove that she wouldn't just stay in America once she got here. So she was denied. My whole life, my mother and I have been separated by a process I cannot make sense of.
So this clip that we shared was taken from the documentary titled Documented by Jose Antonio Vargas, and we'll provide a link to this film in the resource section when this webinar is posted on the SSN website.
On to current policy debates with DACA. In 2012, former President Obama signed the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals executive order, the most impactful immigration relief policy since 1986. DACA offers 2 years of protection from deportation and the ability to work legally. Over 800,000 documented youth have received this temporary immigration status. Unfortunately, on September 5th of last year, the Trump administration ended the program, limiting who could apply for renewal and denying any new applications. Since then, DACA has gone through court systems, and as of right now, renewals are being accepted, but new applicants are being accepted, denying this type of immigration relief to hundreds of thousands of youth that are now old enough to apply. Even though DACA does not address the needs of the 11 million undocumented people, it has been transformative to the undocumented community and mixed status families. The ability to work, go back to school, and help support our families has not only been beneficial to the US economy, but also allowed some equitable participation in society. Relatedly, temporary protected status is given to certain people from designated nations that have suffered war or natural disasters. The TPS program was created in 1990 and has been continued by every administration since then. The Trump administration rescinded TPS from communities from El Salvador, Haiti, Honduras, Nepal, Nicaragua, and Sudan. The US has actively participated in creating the current socio-political instability of these countries. For decades, TPS recipients have relied on this status while establishing a full life in the US. So to have TPS status abruptly denied has created a new wave of undocumented people. Depending on where you live, you have a different lived experience. Some states allow undocumented persons to have a driver's license or the ability to access professional licenses, while other states enact laws that persecute undocumented persons, like the Show Me Your Papers law in Arizona, Texas, and most recently in Tennessee. So when we think about the undocumented experience, it is important to remember that the experience varies and where you live influences your quality of life.
As educators, we understand that academic excellence necessitates diversity. Undocumented students are part of a diverse student body and have a right to access an education and realize their potential in institutions that recognize and affirm their human dignity. The Trump administration has made for an additionally challenging learning environment for historically marginalized populations. Immediately after the election of President Trump, there were a drastic increase of hate crimes in K-12 settings in colleges. K-12 settings in colleges have been the most common venue for hate incidences. Research demonstrates that undocumented college students have much higher levels of anxiety than the population at large. These are likely caused by a unique set of challenges they face as a result of their legal status, such as finances, fear of deportation, and a sense of isolation. In addition, DACA recipients reported feelings of guilt for having DACA. These feelings are likely caused by knowing other undocumented people do not have access to their new status and the subsequent benefits, as well as knowing that they have essentially come out to the government. To illustrate the kind of challenges undocumented students experience on campus, here are two graphs. The first graph demonstrates who has treated undocumented students unfairly due to their legal status. Unfortunately, the majority of these experiences have occurred when interacting with other students on campus, financial aid representatives, and other campus administrators. The second graph demonstrates what factors contribute to an undocumented student's decision to pursue a post-secondary education. We can see that cost is first and foremost, followed by location, and then campus climate for undocumented students. These reasons not only determine whether a post-secondary education is feasible, but also demonstrate how cost, physical access, and support received can be access and retention determinants for the population.
So when we think about the undocumented student population, we need to remember that the socio-political climate is our daily lived experience. The decisions made on behalf of the Trump administration and at local and state levels not only impact DACA recipients, but also those of us that do not have DACA and are undocumented family members. To appropriately contextualize the undocumented student experience, these two graphs are helpful. The instability we experience throughout our lives is part of our college experience. We are surviving instead of living and thriving. Within an education environment, no student should be in survival mode, but for undocumented students, this is our reality. As undocumented students, not only do we worry about our calc test, but we also worry about whether we'll be in the country the next month. Due to our status, we have specific needs. In the next section, we are going to not only review what it means to be an ally for the undocumented population, but how your allyship can help generate support within your respective institution at a local, state, and federal level. As undocumented people, and like other historically marginalized populations, we experience supremacy. White supremacy translates to mean that in our society, racial and social hierarchies exist, and this has manifested into institutionalized oppression. If you want to support undocumented people and be an advocate for the immigrant community, we encourage you to think about your identity, the privilege that you have in the society, and the spaces that you can enter and we cannot. Allyship is not a standalone definition. We like to think of allyship as a spectrum, whether you can stand alongside and support immigrants, or you can be an accomplice and interrogate and dismantle the systems that perpetuate our marginalization. We are glad that you are here, that you are a part of the conversation, and that you've started an allyship journey with us.
Allyship best practices. As an ally, it is important that you do not refer to individuals or the undocumented community as illegal. This word does not recognize our human dignity. Remain informed about current immigration policy and its implications. Identify yourself and the spaces that you occupy as immigrant-friendly, and you will listen openly when someone outs themselves to you. You and the spaces that you occupy are not going to out undocumented people. You will seek to create a climate of trust that allows people from the undocumented community to reveal aspects of their life at their own pace. You will remain empathetic and supportive when someone is discussing a personal immigration-related issue with you, and you will seek to find them appropriate resources. You will follow up on referrals to assess the effectiveness of the resource provided, and you will clarify that you're motivated to resolve the issue as an ally to the undocumented community. You will be committed to maintaining confidentiality and respecting the privacy of people who are undocumented.
As it pertains to supporting the population from where you are as an insider in the academy, ask yourself if these resources exist on your campus and what you can do to start establishing these resources on your campus. 1, what is campus climate like for undocumented people? 2, is there an undocumented student programming office that has a dedicated staff person to support students in their academic, professional, and extracurricular development? 3, are there accessible legal clinics and/or legal services that undocumented students can access to support understanding of the rapidly changing immigration laws and possible abrupt change of status? 4, does your campus have statements of support and safety for the undocumented community and clarified that they will not collaborate with ICE? 5, does your campus have an immigration task force in preparation for local mass immigration rates and for emergency needs such as food and housing? 6, has your campus identified the financial aid resources that exist for the population? And 7, are there professional development trainings for staff so that people providing support for students know how to assist the population?
So in regards to your local and state participation, is your campus or organization part of the local and state efforts to ensure in-state tuition for undocumented students? Is your campus or organization working in collaboration with local immigrant advocacy groups? Which state legislators are advocating for immigrant-friendly policies and practices? How are immigrant groups working with these policymakers? Are there opportunities for you to engage in this work on a personal and/or professional capacity? Are you participating in your local elections? And have you donated to your local immigrant relief efforts? On the federal level, number 1 is vote, vote, vote. And some of us can't vote, so voting is very important. Vote with the immigrant community in mind and educate your students about what is at stake at the federal level.
You done? Were there any questions or anything? Do you want to come back up and see what, are they trying to speak now?
No, it's you.
Okay. So I'm up. People are hearing me now. Hi, everyone. Sorry about that. I had a you guys, our speakers were just fantastic. And of course, I forgot which button I had pushed right to come on at the end. I just wanted to thank our speakers for their magnificent presentation and say that if any of you have questions, now's the time to type them in. We can also follow up with you specifically. And in relation to that last comment from one of our speakers about voting, 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 I wanted to also make you aware that Kelsey George, a member of SSN's national staff, is available to work with university people and with professors and chapter leaders around the country to talk about best practices to make sure that every campus helps everyone in their campus who can vote to do so in a effective, nonpartisan way that allows them to really learn about the issues like this important issue and take appropriate action both as voters and then in whatever broader ways they can. And with that, I really want to thank our panelists and Sayil and your entire team. It's just been a privilege to work with you, and I look forward to continuing to do so. And with that, I think that I think there are no questions, so I think with that, we will sign off. Thank you so much.
everyone.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dang it.
Oh.